Hello, everyone, and good evening. My name's Steve Rader Ginsburg, and I'm the Artistic Director of the Autorino Center for the Arts and Humanities at the University of St. Joseph. I'm really, truly excited about tonight and to start off a 6-week series of talks and classes and a look inside of the work of music from the soul. This is a partnership with USJ Dance and the Autorino Center, and you'll be seeing and learning about this company throughout the next 6 weeks. So please RSVP for all the following events and join us. You know, we've been talking with Music from the Soul since pre-COVID. The initial idea was that they would be here for a week with our community to perform their performance called Partido, be here for a week doing community engagements, doing all of these talks and classes live in person. But because of COVID, we are stretching it out over 6 weeks every Monday night. And then in the fall, we hope to have them up here for the performance. So you can come back and see them live in person then. I want to thank the people who have donated generously to support this program. Those include individuals like yourself who've signed up for tickets and decided to contribute. Thank you very much. It also includes the Roberts Foundation, the National Endowment for the Humanities, and New England Foundation for the Arts. I'm going to introduce the company, Music from the Soul. They are a tap dance and live music company that celebrates tap's Afro-diasporic roots, particularly its connections to Afro-Brazilian dance and music, and its lineage to forms like house dance and passinho, Brazilian funk, led by Brazilian choreographer Leonardo Sandoval and by composer Gregory Richardson. Their work embraces tap's unique nature as a blend of sound and movement, incorporating wide-ranging influences like samba, passinho, Afro-Cuban, jazz, and house. As a part of its mission to bring tap dance, America's original vernacular dance form, to new audiences, the company appears at both music and dance events. Recent credits include appearances at Lincoln Center, Cat's Band, Jacob's Pillow, The Yard, Caramore Jazz Festival, Battery Dance Festival, and Tap in Rio. They were recently commissioned new pieces by Works in Process at the Guggenheim and have received support from the Mid-Atlantic Arts Foundation, the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council, New England Foundation for the Arts, and the Jerome Foundation. Driven by a firm belief in the transformational power of both music and dance, the company has also partnered with organizations like the National Dance Institute and Lincoln Center Education, highlighting a deep commitment to community engagement, inclusivity, and social impact. Beyond theaters and concert halls, they have brought performances and discussions to schools, hospitals, prisons, parks, and community centers. We're really pleased to partner with a local Hartford dance artist, Melissa Craig. Melissa Craig will be moderating this discussion tonight. And let me tell you a bit about Melissa. Melissa is a first-generation American born into Jamaican parents. She is an accomplished dancer in modern African and Caribbean folk forms, as well as a trained stilt walker. Melissa is a current company member and teaching artist for 3 local companies: Judy Dworin Performance Project, Friends World Music, and Island Reflections Dance Theater Company. Melissa has had the pleasure of working alongside others to build strong connections in performance art, arts education, social justice, and community empowerment. Melissa is currently employed as a core faculty member at the Greater Hartford Academy of the Arts High School, full-day and half-day programs. There, she teaches dance, theater, stilt walking, and works with certified teachers in curriculum development and arts integration. Let me introduce to you the artistic director of Music from the Soul, is Leonardo Sandoval, who is a choreographer, dancer, composer. Brazilian tap dancer and choreographer Leonardo Sandoval has become renowned in the dance world for blending America's great tap tradition with Brazil's rich rhythmic and musical heritage. He helped bring tap to a wider audience in Brazil via numerous TV appearances. And in 2012, he was a finalist on Jennifer Lopez Latin America talent search show Que Viva, The Chosen, bringing him worldwide exposure. Now based in New York, he directs Music from the Soul, a 10-member tap and live music company that he founded with composer Gregory Richardson. Finally, Gregory Richardson is the musical director and co-artistic director. Richardson is born to a family of musicians where everyone was expected to play and sing. Gregory Richardson is a composer and multi-instrumentalist, the co-artistic director of Music from the Soul. He is the co-musical director of Dorrance Dance, with whom he has premiered original compositions at New York City Center on 3 occasions, most recently in collaboration with Bill Irwin. Thanks for the introduction. I'm very excited for this conversation. So let's bring on Melissa Craig and Gregory Richardson.
Hey.
Hey.
Good evening.
Thanks, Stephen.
Hey, guys.
Thank you,
so much,
Stephen.
Steve. Yes. We love Stephen. Thank you to Stephen. Thank you to Susan Murphy as well. Shout out to Susan and Kevin Bishop, who's in the background pressing all our buttons, making us look good and sound good. I'm really excited to be here with you guys this evening. It's been a pleasure getting to know you over the last couple of days, and I think you're really bringing some important work to Connecticut and to St. Joe's, and I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure something like this probably would have happened eventually, or maybe it was already in the works if the pandemic hadn't happened. But here we are on Zoom, like being resilient as hell and really like making it still happen. So shout out to us.
Yeah, silver lining.
Shout out to us. And who knows how many more people it might reach, right, in this new digital forum. So thanks to our lovely audience watching at home. And I'm really excited to start this discussion and get to know you guys a little bit. You're bringing an amazing series of work and a body of work to the university through this workshop series. And we want to know the tea about who you really are. Well, I do anyway. So, I mean, just to kind of start at the beginning, I mean, our bios were read. We have extensive backgrounds in dance, music, the arts. It's clearly flowing through our blood. But could you talk about how dance or music or both first entered your life and, like, you know, how it influenced you? Were you in love right away? Did it take you a while to get used to it? Either one of you can start off, and we'll see how it goes from there.
Go ahead, Leo.
Okay. Hey, I'm Leo. Thank you so much for the introduction, Steve, and Melissa as well. So how dance entering my life is a little tricky because I don't have a memory of really starting dance. I was bouncing in my house all the time. My father is a musician; he's a drummer, and music was being playing around my house all day long. And my mom and parents were always telling me that I was bouncing anytime that any music was playing. Fast forward to preschool. On preschool, I was also always moving around. Like I liked to be dancing and moving, but I didn't have any technical training or anything like that, or like either in my family we have any dancers. So my teachers in my preschool kind of pushed my mom to, hey, your son, it might be a dancer. You should put him to do dance lessons. And that's how my mom put me to do ballet, which is the first thing that you do when you decide that you want to dance, I guess. Or it was in the early 90s. But the clear driving for music too, and for rhythm was inside me. And my ballet teacher, in my first year of lesson, he was like, he should be doing some kind of percussive dance because he's obviously a dancer, but he has also music in his body, and those things has to come together. And that's how I hopped into tap dance. And I say that tap dance, I didn't choose tap dance chose me. And I'm really glad about it because it's a place that I feel really comfortable. I'm a dancer and a musician, and those things kind of came out on my skin, like before I even have a knowledge of being a human or being a person, before I was 6 years old, basically saying.
Ashe.
Hmm.
Beautiful. I always tell my students that when they're trying to like catch rhythms and beats, that it's in their DNA, that they don't actually have to search as far and as hard and try as hard as they, like just trust yourself. And that makes me think about that, how it was coming out of your skin. I love that.
Yeah, and a huge shout out to teachers too as well, you as well, because like if you are watching your students, you can see like what maybe they don't actually know about themselves like in early age, and I'm really really grateful for those teachers that actually like in when I basically didn't know how to talk literally were like, well, he should be doing something that he clearly loves to do.
Ashe. Thank you, Leo. All right, Greg, how about you?
Well, my background is similar to Leo's in some ways. I definitely grew up with music in the house. My father is also a musician and a teacher, like a high school teacher, but he's he passed away a couple years ago, but he's a singer and a guitarist, and he really had just a beautiful voice. So he grew up singing in the church, and then kind of, started finding rock and roll and rhythm and blues, probably to the disappointment of his mom. And then in his older age, like in his 60s, came back to the church. Like he was like pretty much an atheist for my whole childhood. And then when he hit 60 and like started seeing that he was getting close to the end of his journey, lo and behold, he started believing in God again. He went back.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, he started singing in gospel quartets again and stuff. So, but he was always playing that music around the house anyways. And my mother is not a professional musician, but she played piano, and we always had a piano with a bench, where you keep the music in the piano bench and just full of music books of things that I still to this day like. She was into the Beatles and James Taylor and the Black Orpheus soundtrack, which was really my first exposure to Brazilian music, which I definitely think set me on a certain course at an early age, even though I never really learned anything about it in a formal setting, but it was just a rhythm that I really connected with. Similarly, my father went to Jamaica at some point when I was like probably 8 or 10, somewhere around there, and he just fell in love. He came back with all these tape cassettes, all these songs with really dirty lyrics that he just loved so much. And I think it was his first time, Jamaica and Mexico were his first time leaving the country and not feeling like a Black man necessarily, like in the US, just feeling like a person. So I think his heart was just like totally open on those trips, and he just kept going back many times and kept telling me, he's like, you have to go. And he took us to we used to go to Mexico a lot because I grew up in Tucson. It's about an hour drive from the border, so it's super close to Mexico. Used to be Mexico. And then and he kept going to Jamaica. So
have you ever been to Jamaica? I have to ask. Did you go?
I've been to Puerto Rico and I've been to Dominican Republic. And I've been on the Caribbean side of Mexico, but that's the only Caribbean places I've been.
Well, you're in luck. I am Jamaican, both parents, so we're gonna figure out a way. We're gonna hook it up.
Oh, please, yeah. I mean, I live in Flatbush, so I feel like I almost live in Jamaica,
right?
Or Haiti, but yeah, I definitely want to go.
All right. Sorry to cut you off. You're in mid story. Tell us about your love for music. You were going. Sorry.
Yeah, well, just to say that I didn't have a lot of formal training in music or anything, and definitely not in dance. But I was exposed to a lot of music from around the world and from a lot of time periods. And I don't know if there was a moment when I had like when I like realized that I was really in love with music, but I do have a very specific memory of my father playing some church records. And it was just some old women singing. It was probably like something from Smithsonian or something, And they started clapping these polyrhythms, like what now I would think of as pretty simple polyrhythms, but I remember getting really excited and running up to my dad and being like, are they clapping 2 beats at once? And getting that kind of like affirmation from your parent when you know you just kind of like impress them or something, or that they're like really supporting you. And that's like a, you know, something that I feel is maybe like a formative moment. So yeah, I didn't take a lot of music classes, but I went to college for music. I didn't graduate. I had a daughter when I was about 20. And so that became a detour, and I moved to New York City, and I've been here for about 20 years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. I can relate to so much of what we were going to say. Were you going to say something, Leo?
No. Just unmuting to be ready.
Okay. I can relate to a lot of what you're saying. And, you know, on both ends, we all have similar backgrounds. I mean, my parents are born in Jamaica. I grew up here in Hartford, Connecticut. I started dancing formally when I was about 10, but I was doing it as a hobby. Like I would take a class, and we had ballet and modern bases. My teacher was Jamaican, and he was from the National Dance Theater Company of the West Indies, which is like the biggest NDTC, the biggest dance company in the Caribbean. So it was a big deal to be learning technique from him. And I just fell in love with the type of dance, the way to express, the idea of telling a story with your body. I feel like I'm good with words now, but I wasn't always. And so dance was like my voice for a lot of it. And we had lots of music growing up as well around the house. So I can totally relate to that. Like your family is like your rock. I'm so connected to Greg's story about, you know, your whole introduction to yourself was about your own family and your father. And that's a deep root. And to know that he found himself among his people in Jamaica and Mexico. And like, I think we're going to touch a little bit about who our people are and what's the connection to our roots. Because I think that's an important aspect. You know, we're just humans. We go from babies to where we are now. But when you get to be an adult, you really do get a chance to understand the cultural influences, the teachers you had. And it's usually our families first off. But I'm really curious to know, or maybe expand a little bit on the diversity of the cultural influences that you had growing up that kind of led you in the direction of where you are now artistically. You can go first, Leo.
Yeah,
I'll go first. Yeah. My father was listening to a lot of music from the 70s and 60s and 70s, which is basically what defined the music of Brazil right now, the melting pot of Brazilian music right now. And in some ways, I think I never left this era of music. It's what I still consume in my house. I still go to those kind of musics, to those kind of songs from this era, because it really brings me a memory of family, and it's what I actually really like and enjoy it. So I know that this music influences totally the work that we do as well. Greg was talking about the Orfeo Negro, the Black Orfeos, this album that he heard, and that's totally connected to the type of music that I was listening when I was a kid, like generally.
Tell us some of those artists. Artists.
Sure. And they are those artists are literally my heroes. Like it's musicians that I really love. One of them, Gilberto Gil. Gilberto Gil, yeah, he's a guitar player and an author, composer from Northeast Bahia, and alongside a friend of him called Caetano Veloso, who is also a guitar player and a music writer. They both were leaders of this huge music movement that happened in Brazil and called Tropicalia. And this music movement was really very related to oppression and the oppression that was happening in the country at that time. And I don't know if what are I mean, there are connections between that, but I can't tell you how. But that type of music really touched me because of this hiding message of resistance and of resilience. And like both of those singers that I just mentioned, they were exiled from Brazil for a period of 5 years during the 60s and the 70s because of the type of music that they are pursuing and creating. So yeah, Gilberto Gil, Caetano Veloso, and then a bunch of other musicians that come like in their, I wouldn't say in their tail, but like alongside them. Those are my music inspirations. And I believe so that their music are very influential to our music, the music that we do in Music from the Soul. Would you say that, Greg, so as well?
Yeah, I definitely would. What about your dance influences?
I was gonna go there, but I didn't know if you needed to speak. I'm like, I need to hear about the samba life in Brazil because I've dreamt about it personally, and I need to go down and come. I need to get a lesson. But how does that tie in? Is that like drinking water? You just walk down the street and you just samba? Like, it's just, or is it for? I don't know. Tell us about it, please.
It's definitely part of the culture. Like every when we say everybody dances in Brazil, literally everybody dances. It doesn't mean that everybody dances well, but nobody's afraid of moving. You know what I mean? Nobody's self-confident of like expressing themselves and using this as a language to express yourself, literally. For me, I didn't realize that I was so drove into tap because tap was music as well, like tap was dance and music as well in an early age. But I was interested in watching those samba dancers who were not, how can I say that? They were, everybody who was watching them, they were not trying to listen to what they were doing with their feet. Nobody was actually watching and listening to what they were doing to their feet, but they were clearly intent to do some percussive movements as they are performing. Like there were no mics in their feet. There nothing like to amplify their sound. And I understand that now that this is a connection with diasporic type of dance throughout the world. And we can see a little bit that in the video that I separate for us to show to as well. But basically saying that this feeling of tap dance, this love for tap dance that I have, I think comes from watching other percussive styles of dance. Obviously, tap dance right now is much more sophisticated and much more technical than what I'm about to show you. But it's there. There's a connection in between there. It's almost unspeakable for me because I can't really find the words to explain the connection between the two of them. But it's there. Let me.
Which clip are we going to? You want to set it up?
Yeah. If you tell us which video, I'm sure Kevin can press the button for us.
Number 6.
But I mean, Leo, do you want to set up the context? Like what video are we watching?
We are seeing a couple of Brazilian dancers just doing what we call miudinho.
Miudinho?
Yeah, miudinho. MIUDINHO. Miudinho, which is a weird word because miúdo means small, and when you say put inho in the end of any word, it's means small as well. So basically, Leo is my name. If I say Leozinho, it's little Leo. But miúdo, which is already little, it's like littlezinho.
It's like itsy bitsy.
Yeah.
Itsy bitsy.
Yes. Very,
cool.
very, very, very small dance movements with their feet. And you can see a little bit of percussive information in those movements too as well. So Kevin, if you can hook us with that one, video number 6, that would be great.
Paçoca, tu entra no boteco, quer comer paçoca. Quando entra no boteco, quer comer paçoca. Vai devagarinho, 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 devagar. Foi devagar, foi devagar, foi devagar, foi devagarinho, 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 devagar, vou devagar, vou devagar.
Yeah, there's some percussive movements over there, right? Would you guys say that too as well?
Absolutely.
Look like a conservation of motion.
Yeah.
So, but their intention when they're doing that is not necessarily for your feet to be heard, but it is to like follow a pattern of its own.
Yeah.
And create a little.
Follow a pattern that the music it's making. Yeah, a pattern of its own. Not for the feet to be heard, but there is a sound being made that,
right,
and that's the connection that I see with tap dance as well. I try to steal and use some of those Mudinhos step too as well while I'm choreographing.
Like, would you say when you're dancing samba, it does feel like you're drumming on the floor with your heels and stuff, right?
Definitely, yeah. We can definitely make the samba rhythm just with our feet, just with no other instrument.
Yeah. It's very similar for African dance. You know what I mean? Like, you know, there's moments when you are with the drum and it's dictating what you do, and there's other moments where you're in competition and they're trying to keep up with you. But it's a beautiful, you know, like again, a kind of an overlap of percussive movement. And the accents on certain things are so important in your feet when you're dancing. So great connections. And I don't know if you wanted to expand a little. The original question way back when was about cultural influences. Oh, but before we go to you, Greg, I'm just curious, Leo, like how much of American culture seeped into your like world in Brazil? Like, were you listening to like stuff that we were listening to here? Or, I mean, obviously you were, but at what point did you like come out of the village of the Brazil and the drum and the constant samba to starting to make the bridges for yourself?
We get a huge amount of American influence in Brazil. I mean, when I was growing up, and I'm sure it's still happening. The fact, and like I'm so grateful for that, the fact that I have so much connection to the village song and music of Brazil, it's because of my family and my parents who love the music no matter what. But I wouldn't say, and that's a little sad to also think about it, but that's not the case with every single Brazilian or in every single house. Like culture, it's being and the English is running away, but the culture is also running away somehow, and like being ate by mass commercial information, and
like diluted almost, like maybe being diluted, and like it's not concentrated, rich, and deep like it used to be.
I remember the first album the first like LP that I have a memory on my house. It was Off the Wall from Michael Jackson. It was the
I knew it.
That I was like, oh, we play music on that. Yeah, and so we have a huge amount of influence, and I think that also as well contributed for me to become a tap dancer too as well, because it's such an American art form, and we by the early 90s were getting a lot of Savian Glover down in Brazil, and yeah, that's how I feel like I kind of went through that direction as well.
What a lovely journey. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. That's awesome. So, Greg, Tucson to New York, like how did it go? What did you pick up along the way culturally? Like what has been layering you to be the kind of musician and composer and thinker that you are culturally?
Yeah. I think, you know, my first role models were not just my father, but also his siblings, because they all played piano, and some of them weren't that great, and some of them are geniuses, can play organ. You know, it's like playing two pianos and a third one with your feet. And also that church culture is very much like, it's very improvisational, you know, and so it's very impressive. People show up for a Sunday service sometimes and they just, it's not faking it, but they're just like, it takes a certain level of mastery to do that, you know what I mean? To just
Absolutely.
be like, oh no, we didn't rehearse, let's just see what happens, and it sounds like amazing, you know? And I have an older brother too, who's 2 years older than me, so there was a lot of me trying to keep up with him. He played piano and us making music together. My father bought a 4-track recorder when I was little. Is the time it used to run on cassettes. And so instead of being like a 2-track stereo tape, it would use 2 tracks from both sides, from side A and side B at once, and you could record 4 tracks. And that was like, you know, like super technology. But I spend so much time on my computer to this day, like making music. That's like one of my biggest compositional tools is the computer, you know. So because you can have access to all these instruments, you know, or you can record yourself several times. You can just do so much by yourself. And that definitely comes from just like making silly songs with my brother on a tape cassette. My father was friends with a pianist named Bobby Dixon. He's the son of Willie Dixon, who's a kind of an important blues figure from the Chicago scene. And he lived with us for like a summer. And he was only giving lessons to my brother because it's a little bit of like ageism. He's like older and he's like, oh, Greg's not ready for that. But I was definitely watching it all and kind of soaking it in. And then when I found guitar, that kind of became my thing because my brother couldn't really do it. You know, he played keys, and I started to realize that that it was something I could do. I got really excited about it. And I played in some like high school bands, like a lot of like anything I could get into. Whoever was playing like rock, like a lot of 90s bands with like 3-word names. Like one was like Veering Ever Red.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, and actually my parents were very supportive, but they don't think they actually wanted me to be like a professional musician. So then when I went to college and I picked it as a major, I think it was a little bit shocking. And so I went to school upstate New York. I moved down to the city as soon as that's where my daughter's mother lived, so I moved in with them. And she is Dominican, so I started right away getting exposed to merengue and bachata and other types of like Caribbean music. And then I met a teacher named Roberto Fuentes, who was kind of like a yoga, a little bit like Feldenkrais method, like very much posture and breathing and like abs and stuff. But he was also a singer, and he played cuatro, which is a 4-string. It kind of looks like a ukulele, but it's way funkier, and he's Venezuelan, which there's also a super strong African connection. Like everything is like in this really funky 6/8 that they do. And so we had a little trio called Trio con Cuatro. That was like the big joke. And it was like bass, accordion, and cuatro. Now that was like a really formative experience for me. That was kind of like my first professional group, and something that I was getting really excited about and getting like positive feedback, and also I was getting mentored by this man who was like encouraging me to practice and taking me seriously and seeing talent in me. He passed away. This snake plant is his. This snake plant is his. Yeah. I cleaned out his apartment when he passed away.
Well, he's with you.
Yeah, with his mom, and I took his plants. That was like 12 years ago or something.
He's just good at keeping it alive. That's like I said, he's with you.
I'm keeping it alive. And then I would say my other biggest mentor was my friend Damien Quinones, he's Puerto Rican. He's like a couple years older than me, but he took me under his wing right away. And he always really liked my playing and kept encouraging me to try to do things that, like, if he needed a backup singer, he'd be like, I just need you to sing. He wasn't like asking like, are you good at it? Can you do it? He was just like, do it. Just kind of like throw me into a lot of stuff. he introduced me to so much music. I remember the night that he showed me Fela Kuti. You know, it's like on a tape. He was like, "You've never heard this?"
Right?
Yeah, we like I listened to it all night. You know what I mean? And he would go out of his way to be like, "Have you heard this? Yes. Okay. How about this? No. All right. Come on." You know. So, and he has just a huge. Leo knows Damien. He's played with music from the soul, and he's like a walking music encyclopedia.
Music, cinema, arts, he's everything.
Yeah, comics,
he's great.
Politics.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, it's good to have friends. Like I said, when we find our people, they help us flourish.
Yeah.
And I think that the connections, and it's so wonderful to put your lives and your careers in context with how you grew up and what's influenced you. You have an amazing series coming up with St. Joe's, and let's talk a little bit about the tap, about the music, about the experience of what you want to share with the university and with the community up here. We do have a question in the chat. We have a few questions, so we're going to try to address some of those. And it's similar to the questions we were going to talk about anyway, right? How and where did tap emerge and evolve? I'm not sure which one of you is the expert on this. I'm certainly not. Tap is the one type of dance I don't know how to do. So I need to come take a lesson when this virtual class starts. But anyway, how did it start? Well, who gets the credit for inventing it?
Oh yeah, that's a interesting topic. Yeah, so super quick. Like tap dance drives from African American culture. Basically, enslaved Americans were taking their drums away from them because they were using the drums to communicate with each other and planning escapes and things like this. So the drums were taken out from them, and they start doing this. They translate the music that they were doing with the drums with their body, and that's how that's what we know it nowadays as handbone. And when they were like prohibited to do that as well too, they transferred those rhythms that were happening only on the hands also to the feet, just to the feet. So fast forward to like the Great Migration, and lots of enslaved Americans were like running away and like migrating to the north, and also a lot of opportunities were happening in the U.S. for immigrant people from other countries, and all this type of people, all the American African Americans and immigrant folks were landing in this place called 5 Points District in New York, and this 5 Point District in New York was heavily dominated by African Americans and Irish immigrants, and both of those cultures were like kind of mixing and connecting between each other. Like there was a lot of competition, there was a lot of exchange, and from the Irish side, they were bringing like what we know as the Irish jiggy, or like what we can call the Irish dance, or like I know my English.
I love it. And, no, you're doing great. You're doing great. Keep going. If there's more, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's all right. I know Greg was smiling too. So they brought those type of dance, and the African Americans who were living also in 5 Points were using the percussive dance that they brought from the plantations, and like this competition and this exchange made this one very famous dancer called Master Juba, or William Henry Lane, who is like the tap dancer, and he was an African American. So he was the first one to actually master the technique that was coming, that was mixing those two sides, the Irish dance and American tap, and the roofing dance. And that's why we say that American tap dance, or the tap dance, is rooted in African American, because the first person to actually own it was an African American, and this person actually traveled all over the world. He was like the first African American dancer to actually go abroad and perform with an entirely white crew, which by those days were very impossible with segregation and things like this. And that's like a very fast brush through American tap history. That is African American, and it is an African American art form. But what is most interesting for me in this art form is that even that we didn't try to be like that, the art form was like that. It was an art form that it was activist. You know, it was bringing Black Americans to places that they were not actually welcome if they were not performers. And this is what it most make my eyes light. And we cannot talk about tap dance if we don't and not mention Billboard Jagons Robinson, which which is a tap dancer that came a little later than Master Juba, but was highly important for the art form and for American history too as well. Like he was the very first Black performer to perform by itself. Back in the day, there was this law that obligate African Americans to perform only in duets. Like in the vaudeville era, African Americans have to perform in duets because people used to say that you need two African Americans to take care of a show that one white person could do it. And Bill Bojangles was this strong personality that refused himself to perform. He wanted to perform by itself. He refused himself as well to perform in blackface. He was a movie star, and I mean, I basically love him, and all the tap dancers do, because he was literally an activist in the art form. And even though he didn't manage to achieve everything that he wanted, it's known for a fact that he really wanted to not be playing diminished characters in movies, and you know, even though he was getting Hollywood contracts, he was performing always as a server, as a butler. Butler. There you go. English is running away. Thank you so much. But yeah, he was this person who was trying to thrive to these stereotypes and to throughout American history. That's why I like American tap history so much, because even though we as tap dancers not that we don't, but it's not our main course to make an activist art. The art itself makes its activism by itself, is almost naturally. And I think that happens because of the way that the art form was born.
Mm-hmm. You were born a rebel. We all were.
Yeah. Since I spoke so much about Bill Bojangles and tap dance, maybe we should.
Yeah, a wonderful setup. Pick out your favorite clip, and then we'll see.
Yeah, I would see
a little Bojangles in action.
Yeah, clip number 3, and this is a rare video from his performance. Like I was saying, he was always put to perform as a butler in the cinema, and this is one performance that he managed to film, but it was cut out of the movie and I mean, it didn't make to the movie, but we have the images and we can see it. So I think I said video number 3, right? Yes, video number 3. Yeah, Bill.
In 1937, Bill was finally scheduled to play a role that allowed him to trade in his servant garb for an elegant top hat and tails. But in a last-moment decision, the studio inexplicably cut his part from the film, and this rare footage was locked away in the studio vaults, never to be seen.
Awesome.
You know, I saw an interview. There's a documentary out on Amazon or something, but there's a bunch of interviews with Lena Horne, and she's saying how she's pointing out all these scenes that she made in all of her, like, you know, really famous movies from that era, and how they were so careful to make sure that they could take those scenes out without it changing the story, so that they could always show the movie in the South, and they could just show a different version, and the plot wouldn't skip a beat, you know? So I'm sure those studios were used to doing that all the time.
Yeah. And it's
Wow.
yeah.
I wasn't aware that was a common practice.
Yeah.
I just learned something. Well, that makes it even more revolutionary, right?
Yes, yeah.
And the fact that they couldn't keep that footage buried forever. We're seeing it now. We're celebrating it now. We had questions in the chat about well-known tap dancers, and I think you've already spoke very well about the roots of the dance in our history. Is there any other tap dancers, any other influences you want to shout out that you, in terms of tap or music or both, in terms of your collaborative nature of your company? Like, who are the people that are exciting you, both past and present?
I have a couple tap dancers, but I'll let Greg if you have anyone else.
Yeah, you know what? This is one of those questions where we'll get off and I'll have like a huge list, but the first thing that always comes to mind is actually just the people that I'm hanging out with and lucky enough to see every day. So, you know, Jose, our saxophone player, like he's a huge influence for me and an inspiration, just because of the way he can improvise and solo. Leo is like constantly giving me new like Brazilian music to listen to, and like making me kind of like not just hear it, but kind of really love it because he loves it so much, you know. And yeah, I think my biggest influences and also the things that I'm most excited about are what's going on with the people around me right now. And I definitely have to shout out Dorrance Dance that we also both work with, because that's a whole crew of not just Michelle as a choreographer, but dancers, the whole band. Like, oh my God, our singer Aaron Marcellus is like he's a genius. Like, he's amazing. I can't even believe that we get to hang out with him, and we get to like play with him. And you know, our other drummer Nicholas, our drummer in Music from the Soul, Josh. Like, Jennifer Vincent is our bassist, and she's like, I used to play bass in the group. But then when I ran into her, I was like, let me play guitar, do something else, because I can just, it's like a clinic. I can just sit there and watch her play, you know? So
Yes.
like, very concrete influences for me are the people that I'm lucky enough to play with.
That's awesome.
And you, I mean, if you join us in our next talk, you will be able to actually get a glimpse of everybody that Greg was telling just now. We have a little clip for every company member, and like they are talking a little bit about the company too as well. This is in our next Monday. Yeah.
Ooh, tune in next time, people. Very good, very good. Good segue, or good a good plug for the program.
Yeah.
Let's stay on the topic of tap and just dig in a little bit deeper. I'm curious, like, how tap influences the emergence of other dance styles, or informs them somehow, or even pulls back to something like African. I mean, we've touched on it a little bit, but I mean, talk about it from your educational history, but also you can please expand on how you're using it in your company work now.
It's well known that tap breakdancers were watching a lot of video of flash tap dancers to incrementate their, like, to make their act much better. So yeah, tap dance it's the original jazz dance. It's like the original vernacular dance, and
I think that, sorry to cut you off, but not cut you off, but give you a chance to think. I was watching the videos that you sent, and one of them I think was Bojangles on a ship or something.
Yeah.
And he's talking about how he's going to Beale Street, and Beale Street being like Memphis, Tennessee, the birthplace of jazz.
Yeah.
And so, like, obviously there's a connection there between jazz and tap. I mean, are they hand in hand? I know that there's a lot of similar historic references to the birthplace of jazz and tap, as what you told me, in like the Black community, in African American spiritual songs, rhythms, the improvisational nature. So I mean, like, anything that comes from that, you know, all the way down, whether it's house, hip hop, crumping, whatever they got nowadays, you know, like there's an element. I mean, would you agree? I don't know.
Yes, yeah. They are definitely hand to hand, and they are definitely side to side.
You know, one interesting fact is that most of these really famous jazz bands like Cab Calloway or Duke Ellington, they always traveled with a dancer. That was just like, if you went to see them, you just take for granted that there's going to be, like, they'll have a horn player and they'll have a bassist and they're going to have a tap dancer too, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like more intertwined than people probably could really imagine, that they were really just evolved and traveled together.
And the evolving of the dance and the music were pushing from one side to the other. Like the music was driving the dance, and the dance as well was driving the music. There is a lot of cross information that who came with this rhythm first, was a tap dancer or a jazz drummer. So there's a lot of conversation about it, and
they both got it from the church.
Yes. On that link as well, talking about tap dancers and driving with band, there's as well of break dancers watching videos of tap dancers performing. There is one classical video from two tap dancers that I also put it in the list, called the Nicholas.
Let's see.
Nowadays we know more about the Nicholas brothers nowadays, because, you know, we research and we found out about them. But back in the days, they didn't get the same recognition as dancers that were dancing in the same year, like Fred Astaire and you know, the white folks that we all know. That care.
Safe to say, some of those people couldn't compare in talent either.
Yes,
but because of, you know, the inherent racism that's there, you just don't get the same level of recognition.
Yeah,
sadly.
Yeah,
were you going to show us a clip?
Yes, it's video 11, and this video is a takeoff from a larger move as well, that Bill Bojangles is on it, but not in this scene, and it's the Nicholas brothers performing very, very flash and impressive number. Yeah.
Let me dig this jive once more, boy. Right on down to the gate. Oh, boy. Now can't you hear those hep-cats call? Come on, boys, let's have a ball. The jim jam jump with the jumping jive makes you dig your jive on the mellow side. Hep, hep. Hip, hip. The Jim Jam jump is a silent jive. Makes you 9 foot tall when you're 4'5". Hip hip. Hip hip. Now don't you be that inkaroo. Get hip, come on, and then you follow through. You get your study full. You make up the joint and jump like the Gators do. Jim Jam jump is a jumping jive. Makes you like your eggs on the Jersey side. Hip hip. Hip hip. The Jim Jam jumping jive makes you hep hep on the Mahala side. Boodly 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 biddly bumpity giddly giddly bang 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 da da. Now I've told you about the jumping jive. Jim Jam jumps and jumping jive. You got to dig this mellow jive. Yes, yes. You dig it on the mellow side. A boodly 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 boy. A boodly boodly boy. A biddly biddly gay. Boodly giddly bumpity gaga. A boodly jive boy. Going to gaga going to boom bomb see the lad the boy.
Nicholas Brothers. Yeah, I never get tired of watching that.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, amazing, inspirational, historic, you know, and to be celebrated, right? I feel bad. I'm writing down all these names, and I want to make sure, like, Black History Month is not over yet. And not that I need to talk about this only in February, but even the gym teacher at my school was asking about famous dancers that she could talk about. And I'm like, these guys need to be on my list.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the athleticism just now.
And grace at the same time.
Right. Yeah. The presence is absolutely there, but just getting up and down the stairs, the athleticism. Do you find, Leo, that like tap challenges your body in that way? Are you doing flips and stuff?
I don't get that far, but definitely it's very, very heavy on the body. Just for the fact that we are like hitting the floor. I felt big time just recently, and it comes with the work, I guess. Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Our body is our temple and our instrument, so we have to do our best to take care of it. So hopefully you'll recover well.
Yes.
I'm sure you'll be back as new, hopefully soon. So I think we have about 15 minutes left, and there's so many things I want to ask, and I'm so glad that you guys will be, working with the university for the next couple of weeks, and we'll get to see you and know more about you as we go as well. But I think for tonight, just with the focus being around the African diaspora and the connections, and it challenges a little bit about where our place as Black people in the world, right? To me, this is just me talking. This is not the university, but I think that could agree that like dance and music is it's a strong app. It's a place where we can thrive and speak out, right? And so, I know you talked a little bit earlier, Leo, about the origins of tap as kind of a protest dance, but do you feel like there's any specific other ways that dance or music can challenge social norms and issues? Like how do we use what we got now to make something bigger happen? And someday someone will be talking about us, like how we're talking about these people. So like, what do we do to get there?
I was just thinking today, like I feel that like our presence as an organization that is also Black led is like, it's a radical activism in itself.
Yeah.
The fact that we exist. And also, because I see how it's inspiring for me to see other Black led companies or just arts organizations or just businesses, period. And so I think that just the fact that we're here is strengthening that network, and it's inspiring to other people and to everyone that's like working with us, that we're bringing into the fold, as collaborators.
Totally agree. Do you ever specifically do work that challenges topics or talks about topics or addresses things that are socially connected? And not that you have to, I'm just curious. Like I know it's a platform. So is that something that you guys are doing, interested in doing, or how does it work?
Well, I will say for me, I feel like the dance, even though it's not like overtly, it's not overtly political. I think that there's a lot of messages to get there, probably depending on who the audience is and who's watching. And that's something that I really like about Music from the Soul, because for me as a musician outside of dance, my passions for music, for purely music, are much more just like an internal, like, it's just literally just a passion, you know what I mean? It's not necessarily intellectual. And the political musicians who do it so well. Like, there's Nina Simone, and then there's like everybody else, kind of like bad, like, like a lot of protest music is really bad, right? So I think that's something that I like about Music from the Soul, is that me and Leo will have these really off the wall conversations about this very topic. Like, remember that one time we were talking about kind of like African diaspora, and we were like, what could we like? We were talking about the fact that we could basically that like we could explore basically anything we wanted to, but where does the line of appropriation come if it's not of a culture that we're from? You know what I mean? Like really kind of deep topics for us artists that we can explore together and try it out on stage and see what it feels like, Yeah.
So that's good. I'm glad you're not afraid to explore, at least, because I think, like I said, you have now an even larger audience. You got some happy folks here in Connecticut well, all over probably with the internet, but as the network expands in this digital world, we're going to be watching and seeing and taking it in as beautiful work. And just like you said, just standing there, being on stage, being front and center, being publicized at a high level with the high honors that you have is activism in the act alone. So I just was curious, though.
And I think
Leo, did you want to come?
too, you know?
Say that again, Greg?
Everything off stage too. There's lots of Black performers,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not necessarily, it's like everything behind also. It's like you want to have some like stage crew and company manager or tech people, producers. You know, it's a lot of what you can't see that to me feels like that's the big, you know, that's the real revolutionary thing.
Yeah, that's how you make the real activism, you know. I believe so too, and I totally agree with Greg. Like just and with you too, Melissa. Just us being a company, it's an act of activism too as well. And just following what Greg was saying, like it is really hard to make activism music or activism dance. And I think we tried once, not we tried, we did it once.
Which piece are you thinking of?
I'm thinking of All You Gotta Do Is Ask.
Oh my God, yeah, what a perfect example. But I feel like that piece totally went over, like I don't think very few people understood what it was like a series of like a woman knocking on a door and like kicking on a door and trying, like this other dancer kept going up these steps, which is also a tribute to Nicholas Brothers, right? And then like having to go back down and like people like, and one dancer was just forced to be sitting constantly. And so it was like kind of clear to me, knowing Leo, what it meant. But it was, I think that the majority of people that saw it just thought it was like, oh, what a great groove, you know?
But that's the link. And I feel like because we talked so much about it, like creating the material that made for us an act of something that we wanted to express, even though like if the message wasn't being taped, so you know it wasn't that clear. I think it was, at least for me, was like the very first time I was not just trying, just my personification wasn't an act of activism. I was thinking of a message underlying that I wanted to share, but it was very underlying. It was very subtle.
Let us in. Let us in.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, I think that it's time for us to see some of your work. You've kept the audience at the edge of their seats enough for the night.
Which clip did you line up for Leo?
I lined up a little segment of Jose's swing.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were talking about African diaspora, and I think that piece, which is video number 1 for Kevin, who is preparing the videos for us. I think that's an interesting one because first, that song was supposed to be it was not supposed to be. It was a rumba that our great friend Jose composed, and we needed a rumba. A rumba. A rumba, yeah. And we wanted to be played in the swing feeling, and like in a jazz swing feeling, and I think that speaks so much to African diasporic thinkings that we can like translate a melody that was played in a rumba version to a swing version, and like kind of travel from one rhythm to the other. And on top of that, like there is a cappella section on this video that we are playing samba rhythms with like percussive instruments. So we are traveling from a samba rhythm to a swing jazz rhythm.
Also a good interesting note that Jose, the saxophone player who I was talking about, he's from Cuba, and he's super deep into both the music has like pure like party fun, but also has his religion.
Right.
And he's equally fluent at both. So it's kind of perfect that we're going back and forth between this like really unadorned, very African groove, back and forth between that and like a swing, like a, you know, which is just as African as anything else, but we don't always think of it that way, you know. So
Shay.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, that was the short version.
Yeah, it's just a glance.
Just a tease.
Yes, we're gonna definitely
Oh.
show more in the other weeks, and
Excellent.
and a lot more in the actual virtual performance.
Well, I think that we've gotten everybody's taste buds a little warmed up. You know, I don't know. You did prepare several videos. Was there anything else you felt you wanted to really share? Or I want to see more of you, but I think a lot of them were historical clips, right?
Yes. Most of them are historical clips, and I will just get one of the questions over here from the chat. There was someone asking for more famous step dancers and like who are the names, and here I will show one that she was not famous, but she should be famous.
Yes, I like this one.
Yeah, because it's Cora Lorette. She's an African American tap dancer who, back in the time, didn't get the recognition that she deserves because she was Black and she was a woman. So, but now we as tap dancers, we remember her and we try to pass her name as much as we can. So,
correct me if I'm wrong. Is she not wearing any shoes in this video? Because it's pretty amazing.
No, she is on tap shoes. Yeah, I think she's on high heels.
She's got these cute little things around her ankles. I'm like, is she barefoot? Anyway, sorry, I don't want to spoil it for anybody. Let's watch this amazing clip. What number is it?
Number 8, video number 8. Sorry, Kevin. Yeah,
that's
so
okay.
Carla Lorette.
Jig time, got to have jig time. Please give me all jig time, all the rest of my days. Oh, first you get low down, get hot and go to town. Keep going, don't slow down. That's the jig time. Break that rhythm, make you sigh, drive you wild, make you cry like a child, make you say, oh, what's done? Time. Got to have jig time. Please give me all jig time, all the rest of my days.
Wow. I never saw that before.
What's her name again?
Cora Lorette. I can, yes.
I saw it on the headings, just for the audience as well.
Yes.
The way her legs were flying up, I felt like I was watching African dance.
Definitely.
Like, I mean, I was watching African dance, but like, you know, that was a really great example of like that, of specific movement concepts where you just see the connection, you know?
Yeah.
And her little shorts on too.
Uh-huh.
All that chocolate was out. I loved it.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Oh, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
See, we got a great guy pressing our buttons behind the scenes here.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I don't want to have to go, but you know, we do have to wrap it up a little bit. I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out, letting me be a part of the team for this opening event. You know, the diaspora, it lives inside of us, and it's coming through our work. It's coming through these conversations. We're passing it to the next generation. It's spreading out even bigger. And it's something for us to all be really proud of, to have those common connections. I don't want to hog the last word either. So if either of you would like to give a plug, a shout out to your mom or something,
Yeah,
please feel free to take a word.
Please shout out to my mom. She might be watching. We've been recording some studio tracks. So really building on our concept of like that tap dance is music. It's not just a live show. We have some really dope tracks out that are on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, wherever you listen to music. So Music from the Soul. Check it out. We just put out 2 new singles and I'm really proud of them. So please listen to them.
All right,
Yes.
congratulations.
Yeah. And they have tap dancing on them, and body percussion.
Okay.
Yeah,
Leo?
and Greg took care of making and producing those songs. So and they are really, 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 really dope. So please go check it out and support our work. I just want to say thank you for you, Melissa, for such a great conversation. It was really nice meeting you, and you're definitely part of the family for sure. You are with us.
I need to sign up for the beginner's level tap class. I think I actually have tap shoes, so
let's go.
Never worn them. They have a heel on them though. I'm like, this is probably why I haven't learned yet. Anyway,
for the beginners level African for sure.
See, we can do a little trade off, a little barter.
Yeah,
wonderful. Okay, I'm so proud of both of you. Thank you so much for all you do. Keep doing it. You're just like 2 shining lights, and Music from the Soul sounds amazing. I can't wait for things to open so I can go and see and, get it all in person. This is awesome to have you virtually, but keep praying for a solution to this pandemic because we need to be back in theaters and back doing our work together.
Yeah.
Hopefully in the fall.
Yeah, ashe. So I'd like to invite Steve Rader Ginsburg to come back on screen with us and officially wrap us up, please. If I forgot anything.
I'm just so inspired. I'm so inspired by that conversation. Melissa, thank you for your grace and your preparation and your willingness and the conversation. Leonardo Sandoval, Greg Richardson, thank you guys so much for your brilliance, your creativity, and being here. Melissa, you repped Hartford area so well, so beautifully, and we're really pleased to have you over a 6-week stretch. So I want to say every Monday night from now through April 5th, you can sign up at autorino.usj.edu and get your free access to these conversations. We will next week we're having Music from the Soul Meet the Company. So you'll learn about the other company members in Music from the Soul. We have a body percussion class coming up after that, tap dance in the underground, tap dance as music, and a few more. So come back and join us. This year's season is called Let's Dance. And we wanted to choose that during this time of the pandemic because we know what it's like to be trapped in our houses and sitting, but I hope you're inspired by this talk, that you're having dance parties at home, that you're just moving your body to stay in the groove. So listen to Passahinho from Brazil, get that Brazilian funk on, get your tap dance, even if you don't have those tap shoes, just move it, and we'll see you back here next Monday night. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.